So, this is the MacBook Air 2011, and this machine is just awesome. If you want to watch the full video of me going over macOS on this thing, you can just click up in the corner, but I'll just give you a summary. High Sierra ran fine, and Sequoia, it's not the best, especially with the fans on this thing. It's always warm. So we're going to be breathing more life into this device today by cracking it open, repasting the CPU and stuff, and finally installing Linux on it. Okay, obviously the first step to get into this thing is to unscrew the back panel, and it is a... oh no, Penelope. Genuinely, what's the problem with using standard screws? I think Apple just went out of the way to intentionally make this more annoying, because it's not more secure. This costs like 10 bucks on Amazon. I guess we'll go with, just T3. It seems like the closest. Is this actually doing anything, or... oh, you know what, yeah, I'm just stripping the screw, I better stop. The guy who owned this before me must have had the same exact problem, because I'm looking in the corner of the laptop and I see a star on this screw. So that means the screw I was working on was already kind of stripped. I'll get the super glue. Before we go to any extremes though, I guess we should try these out first. Oh nice, it's actually grabbing it. And after taking all the screws out, I'm noticing there's like kind of an opening here, so can we just like lift this off or... oh, okay. Whoa, look at the print of the fan on this thing. I don't think it's ever been cleaned. This is so much better. And now we just do the exact same process on the motherboard. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna do that. And I guess I didn't catch this when I initially cracked the laptop open, but we have an iFixit replacement battery in here, and this is like an $80 value, so I paid $70 for this MacBook Air. Score? Oh, and speaking of iFixit, I'm gonna start following a guide on this, because I really don't want to break anything inside here. First, it tells us to remove the battery, and to do that, we gotta go at the cable from, from this angle. Uh-oh, did I just break something, or... oh, you know what, does it just... yeah, it comes out uneven. Up next, we gotta take the SSD out of this thing, and it uses a different kind of screw, of course. Now, I'm not really sure if this SSD is aftermarket or stock, but honestly, it could go either way, because Samsung works with Apple a lot, actually. Who do you think makes the screens? Wait a sec, this isn't NVMe? Oh, you know what, of course it's proprietary. It's Apple. Next is the I/O board cable. Yeah, I'm also gonna have to clean that fan out. I do find it pretty cool, though, that the I/O is separate from the main board itself. Wait, how does this come out without me breaking it? Okay, there we go. After that, we gotta do the fan, and just take a look at the size of this connector. That's gonna be a problem. But how do I even begin to take the ribbon cable out? You know what, I'll just leave it for later. And it seems like the last things we gotta do here is experience screw hell a bit more, and then we should be home free. And while I work on this, I'm gonna tell you a little laptop repair story I got. So the other day, it must have been like, I guess 2 weeks ago, my friend reaches out to me saying he dropped his laptop after coming home from class and the thing just won't power on anymore. And the guy doesn't really know much about computers, so I offered to help him with the promise that he pays for any parts I gotta order online. So I open it up to diagnose and I figure out the problem. For some reason, the backlight failed on the system. Now there were two fixes going through my mind for that. Either I could order a new motherboard or a new display, and either of which were like more than 50 bucks, so I had to be careful. But then in the corner of my eye of the motherboard, I see like a tiny bit of a burnt spot. You know what, I actually have the bad motherboard on me. Yeah, so it was this spot right here that kind of set off a bunch of alarm bells in my head. So I disconnected everything from the motherboard and wanted to investigate further, and yeah, there's the problem. The guy burned a hole in his laptop just by dropping it. This is the first time I've seen anything like this, and I've been working on computers a lot. So I ordered a new motherboard for the guy online, swapped it in, and good as new. You know what, damn, I should have recorded that. The thermal paste that was on this thing is super dry, so I bet replacing it is going to give us a big performance boost. Especially when it comes to sustained performance, because a thing like this, it could rev up, right? But you use it for more than 10 minutes and it's just going to heat soak. People in the comments are going to hate how much I'm putting on this. Yeah, it's non-conductive, it'll be fine. Oh boy, I gotta line this up. This is going to be a pain in the ass. There we go. Oh, I forgot to clean out the fan. I'm kind of wondering if it's possible to upgrade the wireless card inside this thing, because this would make a really nice remote desktop client. Anyways, I think that's about it for cleaning up this laptop, so let's screw it back in and turn it on. It's gonna boot, right? Oh, okay, there we go. It's kind of strange how it didn't make like the Macintosh bong sound when it started up, but I guess unplugging the battery might have changed a setting or two. It's confusing. And after the repaste, I can barely hear the fans, and the chassis of the laptop, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like super cold, but at the same time, it's nowhere near it was before. So with our better sustained performance, let's download Linux on this thing and see how far we can push it. Now the first distro we're going to install on this thing is Ubuntu 24.lts. Mainly because, in my opinion, if you're going to be switching from macOS, you want something easy that you can just set and forget, and Ubuntu checks that box. So I went to go grab a drink, and I think this MacBook Air is cursed again, because if you remember, when I tried to install macOS Sequoia, it just wouldn't work like 50 times in a row, and now we have this. After waiting nearly 30 minutes, I just lost my patience and restarted the computer, and now it just boots up in like 2 seconds, so I just wasted my time. Still such a big fan of the keyboard on this laptop. And nearly 30 minutes later, now we're finally able to use Ubuntu. Only 10 seconds to log in from a first boot. That's way better than Sequoia. While it is faster, Ubuntu actually didn't bring the Wi-Fi drivers after the install. But after digging around the system a bit more, apparently we have an app called Additional Drivers, so will this help? So it found the Airport Extreme, so if we just hit apply changes, we should be able to connect to the network now, right? And now we get a message that says this device is not working. What did I say earlier about Ubuntu being set and forget? This is ending up more like set and regret. So if I didn't have this adapter, I'd be screwed, but I recently found my USB 3.0 to Ethernet, so hopefully we can use this to download the driver. Error while installing package. Ubuntu, I was trying to vouch for you. What is this? Running a bunch of updates here has to fix the driver. This is such a Linux moment. It fixed everything except the one issue I ran it for. So I'm doing some research on this issue, and apparently it's not Ubuntu's fault, it's actually a Linux kernel issue. So I did some more digging and I found this code block that should fix our issue. Yeah, so I'm just curious, when's the year of the Linux desktop, huh? After that, we'll reboot. And... oh yeah, we actually have Wi-Fi working now. Perfect. Alright, now we can get on with the performance tests. I'm not even watching a YouTube video yet, and I can already tell this is like 20 times faster. But even though the machine's responsiveness is way better, you just can't beat the hard limit of the CPU this thing's got. So I think it's pretty safe to say this thing still won't do 4K YouTube. But YouTube at 1080p is way more stable, especially compared to Sequoia. Next up, we're going to take a look at Roblox, and last time we played Natural Disaster Survival and couldn't really break over 50 frames a second. Now this one's going to be pretty fun to showcase, because the Roblox client made by these guys on Linux, it performs way better than pretty much any other Roblox client out there. I mean, it is Linux though, so I could just install it from the terminal. Wait, we don't have Flatpak pre-installed here? Oh yeah, that's right, because Ubuntu wants you to use their snaps. Alright, make a prediction. What do you think the FPS for this is going to be? I think we might actually be able to lock 60 on this. Without reading the FPS chart, I can already tell just night and day difference compared to macOS. But what's the performance readings at? And yeah, I got that prediction spot on. So we're having stable 60 in a video game that couldn't even break 50 before. That's impressive. The best thing to do when you get up to a high space like this inside this game is just try to push people off. It's the funniest thing ever. 60 FPS in this light game is no problem, but what about 120? Yeah, that's about what I expected. It's not going to lock at 120, but the frame rate is still pretty impressive. We're averaging around 70 here. There's one more thing I want to take a look at here. Video editing at 4K. Unfortunately, Final Cut Pro is Apple exclusive, so we'll just use Kdenlive. Oh, and it seems like we got a fun issue with this program. The entire workspace isn't showing up, so we got to reduce the scale. And yeah, I get you can do GNOME tweaks, but that really only works for GNOME apps. If I try to do the same thing for a Qt app, it ends up like this. Yeah, this isn't very usable, so I guess we'll just deal with the standard resolution. And while Kdenlive isn't much better than Final Cut Pro, we are getting more than 1 frame a second when editing 4K videos, so if you absolutely had to edit a video in this resolution, you could definitely struggle through it. So I think that's about it for this Linux distro, and Ubuntu, it ran fine performance-wise, but we definitely ran into some Linux moments along the way, like with the Wi-Fi drivers, like what's up with that? But now we're going to go a bit past your average end-user distro and use a window manager on this thing. Now I will warn you, they're not as user-friendly as your standard desktop environment, but the performance increase is insane. So here's the Sway window manager, and while it kind of looks like Windows 95 at first glance, I actually daily drove this when I was using Linux a few years back. On a window manager, you pretty much operate the entire system just by using key combos, and while it seems a bit daunting at first, you'll learn them quick. Like the first one to launch apps with WinD. Using this, we can launch the installer. And while you could install Sway on top of something like Ubuntu, I just prefer to install the full distro made for it, mainly because of the customizations I don't gotta do. It's already set up out of the box. And our install should be finished, so let's reboot the system and take a look at Sway. Hopefully this distro has the Wi-Fi drivers pre-installed. Oh, hey, it actually does. So out of the box, this is already easier to use than Ubuntu. That's hilarious. I think the muscle memory's coming back to me. So you hit Command, which is like your modifier key, and you hit 1 to go into your first workspace, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So in my opinion, the best way to use this is you just open programs in their own dedicated workspaces and just swap between them. Kind of like this, where we just open up Firefox, and then in here we're going to open up Thunder. And to quit an app, you hit Command, Shift, and Q. Oh no, I thought we got rid of this when we left Ubuntu behind. While it does recognize the Wi-Fi network, it's just kind of sporadic whether it wants to work or not. Oh, by the way, if you don't know how to multitask inside of Sway, all you do is just open a new app inside of a workspace and it slides it over. It's really convenient how it just organizes itself for you. Fedora Linux also doesn't ship proprietary drivers by default, so that also might be our issue. Yeah, I was way too fast to praise the Wi-Fi drivers on this thing, so we'll hook it up to Ethernet and try to troubleshoot it that way. And reading some comments on this issue on Reddit, it says we need the Broadcom package from the RPM Fusion repository. Alright, so we copy this and then just paste it in terminal. Sudo dnf install Broadcom WL. Please don't spit out an error, please don't. Ooh, okay, there we go. And now with that fix installed, let's reboot and take a look. And after that fix, finally the wireless on this thing is working at normal speed. I think the hard part's over, so now we just install Chrome and take a look at the performance. Starting to like how fast it is to navigate this. Loading up the site itself, though, feels just about as snappy as Ubuntu. 4K video still really isn't playable here, but we are getting a tiny bit of better performance on Sway. Aside from the speed with the keyboard, the main reason I'd use Sway personally is just to boost performance on games, so let's see how Roblox handles this. Yeah, here's where I'd say the improvements start to show up. Now we're averaging around 90, 100, pretty impressive for this hardware. But what if we tone this back down to 60 and turn the graphics up to max? It's struggling a bit more, but this is actually around the performance we were getting on Sequoia, so what a difference, huh? Uh-oh. Did anybody even survive that? How? And finally, we'll take a look at Kden Live one last time. And look at that, the window actually renders properly inside of Sway. And I almost missed out learning about this feature on Ubuntu. Is this like a magnetic timeline that Final Cut Pro has? Snap! Oh, that's so cool. And as for the performance when editing 4K video, honestly, a pretty big jump over Ubuntu. We went from like a choppy PowerPoint presentation to something you could actually daily drive. So there you have it, me refurbishing this MacBook Air and pushing it to the limits on Linux. Now, Linux on these things is a pretty good experience, but the one major thing that sticks out to me is the drivers, really? I could see a situation online where somebody grabs Ubuntu and flashes it with the media tool, installs it on their old MacBook, and just immediately shit just stops working. And that's really not good, especially considering Linux is the main thing you want to run on these older MacBooks. But if you're capable of doing a little troubleshooting, honestly, I would say these make pretty good Linux laptops. Especially the 11-inch MacBook Airs. These things are just so portable. Anyways, thanks for watching, and let me know down in the comments, what other projects do you want me to do on computers, MacBooks, or just anything in general. Alright, I'll see you later.